Welcome to Blog Talk Radio in high fidelity.
Broadcasting from Cincinnati, you're listening to the Ringside Reporter podcast. All the news from the world of boxing right here.
Well, I'm talking to you the way I want to talk to you.
Now, here's your host, Eric Lorda.
And we are live. Welcome to the Ringside Reporter podcast, and this is our Halloween special. My name is Eric Lorton. I'm here with my co-host, Ringside Robert, and England's adopted son, Joe Habib. And we have a great show for you today. And as always, you can catch us on the web at www.ringsidereporter.com. If you want to call and ask questions or just give your 2 cents, you can call in right now at 323-870-3857. Hit option 1 if you want to talk to us, and we'll be here till about 9 o'clock tonight. Tonight, we're going to talk about Manny Pacquiao versus Jessie Vargas, the big fight this weekend. It's on pay-per-view. We'll tell you if you should pay for it or not. Vladimir Klitschko is injured and out for the rest of the year. We'll have all the details, and we'll also have another edition of our fantasy welterweight tournament. But first, we get started with Wilfredo Vasquez Jr. versus Juan Manuel Lopez. Former 3-time 2-division world champion Juan Manuel Lopez scored an 11th round KO over Wilfredo Vasquez Jr. on Saturday night in Roberto Clemente Stadium in Puerto Rico. Vasquez was quicker and sharper in the early rounds, but Juanma connected in round 5. He staggered Vasquez. After the fight turned into a brawl, the fight turned into a brawl. Juanma eventually caught up to him in round 11, rocked him, and then sent him to the canvas. The referee immediately waved it off. It looked like a kind of a quick stoppage, but hey, I'm not the ref. So the guy was clearly hurt, though. I'll start off by saying at least I didn't actually watch this fight, not even for free. Not even on Cody did I break this out. This was actually a pay-per-view fight. I don't know how crazy is that. I heard from quite a few sources that the pay-per-view was not good at all. There was a lot of mismatches on it. And before we get to that train wreck of the week, for the fight overall, Beeb, what did you think? I know you saw about as much as I did and read about as much as I did. I mean, any surprises here? Anything? Juanma's coming off a 25-month layoff. I mean, was this fight really relevant? I mean, first of all, was this fight a pay-per-view worthy fight?
Well, first off, for all the people that have been following me over the years, I think it's time that I do reveal my true identity to the public.
Absolutely.
All right, let's talk about the fight. Now, the fight really was not pay-per-view worthy, but the intrigue factor in this fight was both guys, were coming off some layoff. They were coming off, a losing streak. Okay. So on paper, and given the two styles that they brought to the table, it was an intriguing fight, but definitely not pay-per-view worthy. That being said, both guys kind of fell according to script. They basically followed their MOs, things that they already have been known to do. It happened in this fight. Basically, Vasquez has been known to come out boxing, do very well early on in fights, but for whatever reason, the rug gets pulled out from underneath him, and he always finds himself in a slugfest. And we've seen it several times in his career. He's a former world champion. Everyone knows Juanma. He's got a decorated resume as well. But the thing is, Juanma, even though he won this fight, it was a bad thing that he won this fight, because guess what? You know what that means? He's going to continue to go on. And, I watched parts of this fight, whatever I could, find on YouTube. And I saw Vasquez, as I said, doing well early on. Then, as you mentioned, that right hook in the 5th round by Juanma turned the fight around. And I guess from what I heard, Vasquez's eye had some damage to it. He was blinking in his eye. So I don't know if it was a detached retina or if it was a corneal abrasion in there. I don't know what it was. But it looked like some serious damage. So after that, his boxing game plan went out the window. And then, it was a slugfest, as you mentioned. And Wama was able to close the distance and take away that long reach from Vasquez and that jab from Vasquez, which was basically paying dividends for him early in the fight and set up, the long straight left. And if you looked at Wama's face, he had almost like a hematoma, I believe, on the left side of his face, if I'm not mistaken. So this is the thing. Once again, both guys suffered damage in an already battle-worn career from both men. So both of these guys have a ton of mileage on them. Both of these guys are on the downside. Both of these guys are, anytime they fight, they're a knockout waiting to happen. So with that being said, Wama did what he had to do. Didn't look in the best of shape, look a little soft. But, this is another hard fight, which, put more miles on the odometer, and at an advanced stage where, as I said, already he's taken a ton of damage. This isn't good because now he's calling out, Orlando Salido again, wants a rematch with him. And, based off of this performance, one of the champions wants a nice, easy in-between fight. He'll probably get another big fight, and guess what? He could possibly get hurt again. So, entertainment value, great fight. Significance, really not a big significant fight, in my opinion. And the downside is whoever wins this fight would probably get a pretty decent payday against a pretty good fighter, and they would end up getting starched and hurt. So it is what it is. Wama lives to fight another day, and I think Vasquez, if I'm not mistaken, he retired after the fight. And, I can't complain about that. It is what it is. I think he got the most out of his ability. Definitely not what his father was. But you know what? Given, his skill set, I think he got the most out of his ability, and he can look back on his career and say, hey, you know what? At least I was a world champion. I was in there with some big names, and I held my own.
Absolutely. All right. So the fight itself was, it was a good fight. It was exciting. By all accounts I read and everything like that, and the highlights that I saw, it was a very exciting fight. But what happened after the fight brings us to my favorite segment. And we're going early this time. The train wreck of the week. Beeb. It's train wreck of the week. Super Beeb.
Check it.
That was a super train.
We bought our tokens early for this train ride, huh?
That's right. When we find out Super Beeb is on the train and he's coming down the tracks, hey, we're going early, baby. We're going early. So let me explain this. There's a situation after the fight. All right. So the fight is not the train wreck of the week. The pay-per-view card is not the train wreck of the week. So what happens after the fight? This moron, Wanma is, he knocks him out, and then he starts to celebrate a little bit, and then rushes, for whatever reason, over to Vasquez's corner, and rather than celebrate, he runs over to Vasquez's corner and starts a fight with one of the trainers. Well, that would have been bad enough if it ended right there. But it turns out it did. It turns out the trainer knew a little bit about boxing too. Who knew? He was just a boxing trainer. Who knew he knew how to defend himself? He clipped Wanma with a picture-perfect left hook and staggered him along the ropes. Wanma, if there was no ropes there, he would have went clearly down. Wanma took a couple more shots before the two were finally separated. Oops. What a moron. Who goes over there and starts a fight afterward? What great sportsmanship that is. But leave that out of it for a second. But you go over there and start a fight and just get clipped twice. And he would have been out. He looked staggered. He was definitely hurt.
You know what that's the equivalent of, Eric? That would be like me going to 7-Eleven, getting a Slurpee, and then getting in an argument with the girl at the register, and she gives me a quick jab and staggers the Beeb. How would that look? That's the equivalent of that. You got a world-class fighter. You got a world-class fighter in Juanma Lopez, and a guy with a beer belly trainer in the corner staggering with two lefts. That would be like the Beeb taking the 8 count from the back boy at Stop and Shop. That can't happen.
It's a tough guy.
That can't happen.
It's a tough guy at Stop and Shop, man.
I know. I know.
Unbelievable.
Can't let that happen.
All right, as you guys have noticed, before I shoot it over to Robert to see what he thinks about the train wreck of the week, I am dressing the Day of the Dead mask here. Beeb is Super Beeb, and Robert, who you can't see, is decked out as Al Heyman. So, Robert, what do you think of this train wreck of the week?
But this version of Al Heyman actually talks to people and doesn't hide. So, anyway,
I think you should have dressed up as Triple G myself.
As far as the train wreck of the week is concerned, I give props to the trainer, man. Who knew a boxing trainer who actually trains boxers could actually step in the ring and do damage to a world-class fighter? Props to him, man. Good job, you know? And if he's a Puerto Rican trainer, maybe other Puerto Rican fighters will take note and say, you know what? Maybe I better give this guy a shot, you know?
Yeah, right? I mean, seriously, man.
Yeah.
I'm like, who does that, though? Who goes to the other corner? The guy didn't do anything but get in the ring. And I don't care if the guy was shouting at him. So what? You know, the guy was shouting at him. Who cares? You know, I mean, just you won the fight. What else do you want? You want to go over there and try to pick a fight with his cornerman? Come on, man. Really?
Maybe you didn't get enough work in. You had to go a few extra rounds. 11 rounds wasn't enough. You know?
He got more than he bargained for. I'll tell you that. That cornerman can fight, boy.
Hey, maybe that's Juan Ma's next fight. Let's try to set up a fight in Puerto Rico with that trainer.
Set that one up, right? Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
323-870-3857 if you want to chime in. All right, so let's go to the upcoming fight schedule here and see what's on the horizon for this week. All right, so, Robert, you're my savant, November 4th. That's a Friday, correct?
That is correct.
All right. So, November 4th on Showtime from Corona, California, Robbie's Stomping Grounds. Taras Shuttlestuk versus Jamie Herrera, 10 rounds welterweights. This will be on Showtime. And Konstantin Bejanaru versus Stevens Bujaj, 10 rounds cruiserweights. Can't wait to not watch that.
And welcome back to the TV market, United States. You actually have fights on TV this week.
Yeah, right. On Australia TV from Los Angeles, Manuel Avila versus Jose Ramirez, 10 rounds featherweights. And on Unimas from Vegas on Friday, Casey Ramos versus Andy Vences, 10 rounds, junior lightweights. And then the big one, well, I use big one loosely, the big one this weekend. Let's qualify it. Big one this weekend. On Top Rank pay-per-view from Las Vegas on Saturday, Jessie Vargas versus Manny Pacquiao, 12 rounds for Vargas's WBO welterweight championship. Beeb, I'm not looking forward to watching this fight because I think that there could have been a better fight made with Manny Pacquiao. I'm not real interested in it. Does Vargas have any chance at all to upset the apple cart here?
Vargas has about as good a chance as I do at beating Manny Pacquiao right now.
Wow.
And as you know,
well,
I already have one foot in the grave closing in on that 5-0. So, I just don't see this being a competitive fight. And the thing about Manny Pacquiao is, we've been hearing for the last 3 years that he's slowed down. But even in his slowed down state, not being in his prime anymore, arguably he could still be considered the best welterweight in the world. Who's to say that he couldn't beat all these other guys, these young lions out there like Keith Thurman, Errol Spence? I think he'd have a hard time beating an Errol Spence, but who's to say he could? Because he still has that, dynamic fighting style of his, offensive machine. And the thing is, to beat a Manny Pacquiao, you have to kind of slow the pace down a little bit. Again, he's not throwing 1,000 punches a fight like he used to. But when he's on, like in that last Bradley fight, threw about 850 punches. I mean, he still can fight at a fast pace, even at 37. And, and Vargas, he tends to get in the pocket and likes to slug it out a little bit, but it takes him a little while to get his motor running. He's not the type of guy that, from the outset, he fights at a fast pace. You know what I'm saying? So he takes time off in between rounds, and a lot of times he'll be looking for that perfect shot. And when you're in there with a guy like Manny Pacquiao, who, as I said, is very dynamic, can move very well in there, not going to stand in front of you, not going to give you those looks. He's going to go in and out on you, give you those angles, rattle off those combinations, get back out and reset. And all the while, Vargas is going to be sitting there looking for that perfect shot, and in the process of looking for that perfect shot and waiting for that perfect shot, that's where the buzzsaw Manny Pacquiao is going to take over. So, style-wise, this is like this is an ice cream sundae for Manny Pacquiao, man. This is an easy fight style-wise for Manny Pacquiao. I do not see any surprises here. There's not 1 ounce of intrigue in this fight. It would have been nice to see, even an Adrian Broner in there or Danny Garcia in there, because we were told that Arum and Heyman are talking, so we were told that possibly there could be some cross promotion going on here, and all the good welterweights, with the exception of Floyd, who's retired right now, are across the street. So in order for us to get a good fight now from Bob Arum and Manny Pacquiao on the top rank side, he's going to have to cross the street and fight some of those PBC guys. Will he be willing to do that? They said they were. So let's put it into action now. Let's not just hear the words. Let's see some of these guys cross the street and fight Manny Pacquiao, because besides Canelo, Manny Pacquiao is still the money man here. He's still the money man in boxing. So why wouldn't you want to fight with Manny Pacquiao? And when you look at a lot of Manny Pacquiao's opponents, even on those big pay-per-view events that he's had, and then you look at Floyd Mayweather's big pay-per-view events, guys who fought Manny Pacquiao actually made more money than guys who fought Floyd Mayweather. Like Brandon Rios got like $3 million to fight Manny Pacquiao. Well, Marcos Maidana, who I think is a much better fighter than Brandon Rios, fought Floyd Mayweather. He only got $1.5 million. So why would you not want to fight Manny Pacquiao?
Well, the difference is, Joe, Manny Pacquiao is willing to pay his opponents. Floyd Mayweather is not.
Obviously that's the case. I understand that. But with that being said, Manny Pacquiao is still a big name in boxing. He's still a worldwide recognized name in boxing.
Oh,
he's on the downside.
I totally agree.
Yeah, he's on the downside. So why not put that big name on your resume? The iron's hot right now. This is the time. So it's pretty sad.
I feel the fight we should have gotten is Manny Pacquiao against Terrence Crawford. That's the fight. That's the fight we should have gotten, because that was one of their reasons, supposedly, for putting Terrence Crawford and Victor Postal on pay-per-view in July, because the winner was supposed to be in line to fight Manny Pacquiao. Well, why didn't we get that? It's because Manny Pacquiao has the same kind of power that Floyd Mayweather does, and Manny Pacquiao was able to choose who he wanted to fight. Well, his first choice was Danny Garcia, and Danny Garcia turned down $4 million. So after Danny Garcia turned down $4 million, Manny Pacquiao's next choice, unfortunately for all of us, turned out to be the very soft, no chance Jessie Vargas.
Well, also Adrian Broner was offered that fight too, and he turned it down. Adrian Broner turned it down. Danny Garcia turned it down. They both turned it down. So, but I still, there's enough people over at Top Rank. You could have made that Terrence Crawford fight. Don't tell me you couldn't make that fight. You could have made that fight. That's my problem with the whole thing, is that you could have made that fight. You tried to make two, you had Adrian Broner and Danny Garcia. Both were long shots. You know how it is to deal with those two. Danny Garcia doesn't want to fight anybody, and Broner doesn't want to fight against anybody good, So, but you still had Terrence Crawford in there. You could have fought him. It could have been something here.
Yeah.
But I will say one thing. Manny Pacquiao really wants that Floyd Mayweather rematch, number one. Number two, there are rumors out there that Floyd Mayweather is interested possibly in fighting Manny Pacquiao in 2017 in May. And if that rematch does even half of what the first fight did, revenue-wise, then that's a win. That's a win once again for everyone involved. I suspect if they promote it properly and put that spin on it, like Manny Pacquiao had the hurt shoulder, you're going to see a whole different Manny Pacquiao in this fight. Both these guys, didn't put out their best in the first fight, so now they want to redeem themselves in the second fight. I think this could be sold to the public because, we are suckers, me included. I'm the biggest sucker of all, and I'll probably buy 2 pigeons fighting out in the street. That's how sick I am. So that's the thing. I think they could promote the rematch right, and I think it would do well. I think it would do awesome, and I think that's why you're seeing Manny Pacquiao fight Jessie Vargas, so we can get a win and, be waiting in the wings for that potential spring 2017 date rematch with Floyd Mayweather. And you know what? I knew this was going to happen with Vargas. I knew it. But, it's like when you know something's going to happen and you're sitting there saying, this is going to happen, blah, 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 blah. But then when it happens, it just pisses you off. Like, even knowing this was going to happen, and then when it comes to fruition, it still sucks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, what can you say?
And the only reason Manny Pacquiao is getting this belt, because let's face it, Jessie Vargas is going to hand this belt. He has no chance of winning this fight. But one of the reasons why Manny Pacquiao is getting this belt is to lure Floyd Mayweather into the ring for a championship belt. Otherwise, Floyd wouldn't take the fight. There has to be something on the line for Floyd to get in the ring. So that's one of the reasons why. That's another reason why Pacquiao has picked Jessie Vargas. Unfortunately, I agree with Beeb. I don't want to see it, but we're going to see Mayweather Pacquiao 2 next May. I think it's a foregone conclusion.
And I think that pay-per-view tanks if it happens.
I did not hate the first fight as much as everyone else did. I obviously didn't kind of pan out the way I thought it would be. I actually thought Floyd Mayweather was going to knock Manny Pacquiao out.
Oof.
As amazing as that may sound, I thought he was going to run him into a counter shot that he wasn't ready for, that he didn't expect, that he didn't see, and I thought he would knock Manny Pacquiao out. Obviously, that didn't happen. But I don't know, man. I think Manny Pacquiao could make the second fight very interesting if, that fourth round was interesting too. Like, if he can fight like a couple more rounds like he fought that fourth round, I think the fight's really, really intriguing. So that's another thing he can say. That's another thing they can sell. When they're doing the promo for this fight, they can keep, putting that in the loop and rewinding it, showing Manny Pacquiao landing that straight left on Mayweather and kind of, staggering him back a little bit. And he could sit there and say, see, that's the type of fighter I am. That's the type of fight I can do, but I'm just going to do it from rounds 1 through 12 and not just have it done in spurts. So if I can maintain a sustained attack against this guy, I can overwhelm him. I think they can promote it and they can sell it, and I think people will buy it. And I'm saying, all it has to do is half of what it did. But I'm predicting it'll probably do more than half. I think, if they give it time and they promote it and they just really, really focus on, hey, that wasn't the Manny Pacquiao that we know and love. That wasn't the real Manny Pacquiao. Then I think that people may be intrigued a little bit. He can sit there and say, I'm going to go in there without the shoulder injury. So
I don't know, man. I'll tell you what.
We'll see what happens. But
I think they can promote it. I think they can promote it pretty well. But I'll tell you what you're going to see on Saturday night. And you're going to see the same thing you saw in the Bradley fight. And after that fight, everybody raved about how great Manny Pacquiao looked and everything like that. Knocking the guy down and everything like that. And you're going to see the same thing in the Vargas fight. I'm telling you, I want you to watch this fight. I want you to go back and watch the Bradley fight, the last Bradley fight. You watch this fight coming up. His legs are not the same. His legs are gone. And his reflexes are slowing. And if you don't believe it, or you have trouble, no, there's no way, blah, 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 go back and watch Manny Pacquiao versus Oscar De La Hoya, and you tell me that is the same guy. It is not the same guy. His skills are diminishing.
Eric,
go ahead.
Eric, I agree with you, but the problem is Jessie Vargas is not skilled enough to take advantage of the weakness you point out.
I agree.
It's going to have to be somebody more talented than he is.
Yeah, I agree with that. But he's going to exhibit those. You're going to see it. It's not going to be this. It's not going to be the old Pacquiao you're going to see there. It's not. You'll see it. You'll be able to see glimpses of it in the fight. Maybe not, you'll see it in this fight. I guarantee you'll see. Jessie Vargas is a credible enough guy to make him, to make him look bad in spots, whether he wins the fight or not, And let me ask you guys this too, because you guys have heard the rumblings just like I have. What kind of stock, Beeb, let me start with you. What kind of stock do you put into Manny Pacquiao not being ready for this fight? Do you think that the Senate duties or whatever he's in over there, or whatever politics or whatever office he's in over there, how do you think that's going to affect him? And I've heard rumblings that, he hasn't been the same in training camp and this and that. Now, of course, Freddie Roach is saying, oh, he's a beast in training camp. He's knocking people out left and right. Typically, I mean, talk like that's not usually, I don't know. It's not usually true, put it that way. Do you think that Vargas would have an outside shot, given the fact that, do you think Pacquiao is 100% ready for this fight?
Well, Bernard Hopkins once said that, you know what, leading into a fight, there's always something going on. You could be having problems with your girlfriend. You could be having issues with a family member. Someone could have just passed away. Someone could be sick. Anything could happen. You could be distracted yourself. You could be in depression. You could be injured somewhat. No fighter really has it all going for him going into a fight, because life is life. We all know that. We wake up in the morning, we're not going to have a perfect day every day of the week. That's just how it is. But we've been hearing these stories before with Manny Pacquiao, because he has so many things going on, singing. He's got obviously the political career and what have you. But one interesting thing that I'm going to bring up here that kind of caught my eye a little bit and caught my ear a little bit is seeing Freddie Roach being interviewed and saying, yeah, we're going to win this fight. Hopefully we can stop him, but we'll see what happens. This is the first time in about, I don't know, in 7 or 8 fights where he hasn't predicted a knockout. Because I'm used to seeing Freddie Roach say, oh yeah, we're going to knock the guy out in 1 round. We're going to knock the guy out in 2 rounds. We're going to knock the guy out in 4 rounds. He didn't say it this time. So for Freddie Roach to not sound as confident as he usually does, that's a red flag too. But with that being said, man, I think the worst Manny Pacquiao will definitely beat the best Jessie Vargas. That's how wide the skill gap is, in my opinion. That's just how I see it. But on paper, we can say what we want. We can look at the statistics. We can look at the history. But the fight has to happen. We still have to, watch the fight. The fighters still have to fight the fight. So anything can happen. But the question is, will it happen this time? I don't think so. And I'm not looking for any surprises. I'm really not.
Yeah, I think it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for Vargas to climb that hurdle and beat Pacquiao. He's just, he's just not as skilled, even at this point in Pacquiao's career. I think you're going to see more vulnerabilities in Pacquiao in this fight. I think Jessie Vargas provides some anxious moments at times, but I think Pacquiao wins. Again, I don't think Pacquiao knocks him out. I don't think he comes close. I think it's a unanimous decision, probably close to a whitewash, honestly. Robert, what about you? What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, look, we know Manny Pacquiao has 38 knockouts. But he hasn't knocked out anybody legitimately since Ricky Hatton. The last TKO stoppage he got was against Miguel Cotto. Ever since then, he's either lost a fight by being knocked out himself, or he's went the distance. So for anybody to predict the Manny Pacquiao knockout here hasn't been following what he's been doing. I think it'll be 120, 108 across the board. I think Jessie Vargas is like a sparring session for Manny Pacquiao, and I think it's going to take a Floyd Mayweather or somebody more legitimate to point out what weaknesses that you pointed out earlier that Manny Pacquiao now has at the age of 38.
Right. Yeah, so let me ask you this now. All right, so we're all assuming that Manny Pacquiao is going to win this fight. Yes, I mean, I think all 3 of us are unanimous taking him.
Yep.
Yeah, no surprises.
We heard some crazy rumors.
I agree.
We heard some crazy rumors during the week. Bob Arum, of course, spouting off the mouth again, saying that Pacquiao will fight. He put Pacquiao in with Triple G, and of course he backtracked on that and said, "No, I was just joking. Clearly, it was just a joke." Because you're not going to put him in there with him. But nobody wants to put their fighter in with him right now. But then he was talking about Lomachenko. He said that Lomachenko is the fight he really wants for Pacquiao. Now, why is it Lomachenko the fight for Pacquiao, but not Terrence Crawford? I think Terrence Crawford at this point could command more money. So what are your thoughts on this potential match?
Well, I think the whole Lomachenko thing is a fucking disaster area.
Rated G, Robbie. Rated G.
I know this is the internet. This is the internet, baby.
Oh.
If you're listening, if your kids are listening, you're gonna learn. First of all, The whole Lomachenko thing, that's a fucking disaster area, because Pacquiao is fighting Vargas at 147. Lomachenko is going to be fighting Walters at 130, and I heard a ridiculous statement that Pacquiao said, "Oh, I can make 135 with no problem." Really? At 38 years old? I don't think so. Give me a break. Terrence Crawford is the fight you should have, and if you want to fight that at 140 and try to get Terrence Crawford's title, that's fine, because I think the man from Nebraska will point out all the weaknesses that you currently have that Jessie Vargas will not. Period.
Well, this is the funny thing though with me. Like everyone's sitting there saying that it's pretty much a given that Crawford would beat Pacquiao. I'm not sure. I mean, I like Crawford, but I've seen some lapses. I've seen him go in the pocket and just kind of stand there, and I don't know if he's gonna gamble a little bit like that with Pacquiao. If he's gonna stay in there and dare Pacquiao to hit him like he's done in other fights, maybe he's going to get something he don't want. You know what I mean? So I don't know, because at some point in the fight, Crawford does always kind of sit down in there and go to war. Can he afford to do that against Manny Pacquiao? Manny Pacquiao is a dynamic fighter. I can't say that enough. There's certain things about Manny Pacquiao that he's just gifted. I watch him fight. I see him do things wrong. I see him square up. I see him overextend sometimes when he throws the left hand. Goes face first sometimes when he's throwing that left hand, and his back foot comes up off the ground. So a lot of times it looks like he's off balance. But the thing is he's just so dynamic. He's like that guy who just throws takes free throws and throws the ball underhanded, but it still goes in. He's not a textbook fighter, but he always finds a way more often than not to get the job done. And I've bet against him several times. And a few times I think I got robbed when I bet against him, because I do think Marquez did win, 2 of those 4 fights.
Absolutely.
But it is what it is. But, he still knows how to win. He still knows how to win, and he is still quicker. He is still better than the majority of fighters in that division. Imagine us saying that, he slipped. But, if you look at any rankings, he's either number 1 or number 2 at welterweight. Still. And that's with the slippage. So that says a lot about how good this guy really is as a fighter. And I'm not willing and ready and willing and able to write this guy off just yet. I think it's too soon. Crawford can present problems, but I don't think people are saying, "Oh, he'll beat Pacquiao easy." I just don't see it that way. I
don't know. We'll have to wait and see, because I tell you, man, I think that with Pacquiao, man, like I said, I think he's on the downside. I think he's still got some good fights left in him, in the sense that he's still got some big money fights left in him. He can fight a Crawford, he can fight a Lomachenko, or whatever, if Lomachenko decides to come up, whatever the case may be. But he still commands. I'd like to see him against like an Adrian Bronner. I think that's a great fight. I think him and Danny Garcia would have been a big fight. I don't understand why Garcia didn't take that fight. That was just silly. But who was Garcia's fighting the following week? Sammy Vargas. So that's a much bigger fight for him, I think. So, but let's talk about this pay-per-view overall. Let's talk about this, man. So we got 4 world title fights. They're all the WBO, but hey, they're all world title fights, okay? The flyweight title is on the line. The featherweight title, Valdez. The next, let's see, Oscar Valdez versus Hiroshige Osawa, 12 rounds for Valdez's WBO featherweight title. Nonito Donaire versus Jesse Magdaleno, 12 rounds for Donaire's WBO junior featherweight title. And Zhu Shiming versus Predisak Papawem, 12 rounds for the vacant flyweight WBO flyweight title, which Zhu Shiming and this guy, Papawem, have already fought, from what I understand, and Zhu Shiming just waxed him. So why they're fighting again, your guess is as good as mine. Maybe it's an eliminator. I don't know, because it is for the vacant WBO flyweight title. So there's four championship fights on here. This isn't exactly a Don King card. Back in the day when he used to put on those crazy cards with, Zuma Nelson and Terry Norris and Gerald McClellan, and I mean, just those crazy when Chavez was on there.
Julio Cesar Chavez.
Oh yeah, I mean, every King card was just a must-see pay-per-view, man. And you didn't mind shelling out the money because they were good fights. So
That's right.
So, given the fact
I've
that
given Don a lot of my money over the years.
I have proudly given Don King, Mr. King, is like, in this training camp, he used to live in Orwell, Ohio, which is right by Cleveland, local boy. From Ohio, baby. Don King is from Cleveland, baby. Did I mention Cleveland is up 3-1 on the Chicago Cubs? Ohio? Just saying. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm just saying. But anyway, back to boxing here. So we got four world title fights. Beeb, is this a pay-per-view worthy card? Not asking if you're going to pay for it.
Well,
but would you advise the people?
Well, go ahead, Eric.
No, that was the question. Would you advise the people to buy this fight?
Yeah.
What?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, but I would buy it. I would probably buy it myself if I didn't have my Cody box. But the thing is this. The bar has been set so low now. Yeah. We're seeing so many subpar events being put on pay-per-view now. So, what is the pay-per-view standard now? I mean, all you have to do basically is throw a few title fights on there, put a big name on the card, and regardless of who he's fighting, and for some reason that justifies the promoter to put it on pay-per-view for whatever reason. So, they don't even care either because the numbers have been dropping steadily. They've been dropping steadily over the years. Fewer and fewer people are buying these events, but they're still, compelled to put these fights on pay-per-view, even though a lot of us don't want to buy them and don't buy them, and a lot of us are streaming them or, using other alternative methods to watch these fights, and they still don't get it. So I don't know. Maybe they're getting money in site fees. They're getting enough money in sponsorships that they don't really care about the pay-per-view guys. I don't know, but this pay-per-view model is failing. It's failing, and that's why you have the PBC, the Premier Boxing Champions network of events on various channels now, on free TV, premium cable, and just basically regular stations now, where we don't have to fork up our dollars. We don't have to pay pay-per-view dollars for these fights now. We can just go on cable and we can just watch these fights. We can watch these fights on CBS and NBC as well, ESPN. Who doesn't have ESPN? So this is what's allowed PBC to sneak in the back door. And I know a lot of people are complaining about, these fights have not lived up to what Al Heyman has promised. But let me ask you this: how many big pay-per-view events have we had thus far this year? Really?
Not
How
very
many big pay-per-view events?
Not many.
We've had Canelo and Triple G on pay-per-view, right?
Yeah.
But were they in there with were they marquee fights? You know what I'm saying?
No,
right.
So basically,
Triple G wasn't on pay-per-view this year. He was on pay-per-view last year.
Thank you for the correction. But Canelo was on pay-per-view. And, as I said, that was a big event. But was it really a marquee fight? So that's the thing. So now these guys are trying to sell events, names, putting one big name on there, and they're just basically saying no matter who they put them in there with, they're, putting their hopes on that one big name to carry the day, right? And they're just totally disregarding the level of opposition that big name is in there with. So this is where we're at right now. And this is why, PBC is there. And this is why, Al Heyman, I think, whatever you guys want to say about Al Heyman, whatever you guys want to say about PBC, how it's not living up to what it's supposed to be or whatever, who else has? Who else is putting on good fights? And you want to criticize, Al Heyman's quality of fights, right? But what has Bob Arum given us? What has Oscar De La Hoya given us? So no one else is doing anything either. So, boxing needs a shot in the arm. It needs a kick in the ass right now. And hopefully this Andre Ward, Sergey Kovalev will be the fight to do that. Because that's what I'm looking for, and that's what I'm looking forward to. That's one pay-per-view that I would definitely pay for. I'd buy that one twice. That's how good that fight is, in my opinion.
Well, for that particular fight, I know they're going to charge at least $75 for Ward Kovalev. It'll be interesting to see what the pay-per-view price is for Pacquiao these days, considering the quality of fights.
Yeah, that's very true too. And I mean, there's
well,
$75 for. Is it really $75 for Ward Kovalev? That's what you're hearing.
I bet you that's what it. I bet you that's what it's going to be, Eric.
Yeah, that hasn't been confirmed yet, but yeah, I don't think you're out of the realm of possibility there. That's for sure. You know, and Ward and Kovalev are not exactly two household names. I mean, this is laid on the table. They are not two. They may be the best fighters. You know, they may be two of the best in the world. They are hardly household names. So
no, but they're both going to be paid like they're household names.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Robert.
Yeah.
Now, will you watch this pay-per-view?
I'm a junkie, so I probably will.
Right.
But I got to tell you, one of the things that really irritates me about this is the thought of Screaming A. Smith, Stephen A. Smith, being the blow-by-blow guy on boxing when he doesn't know anything about it.
No, clearly he doesn't know anything about it.
You guys think that Mauro Ranallo or Jim Lampley talk too much or is bad, or Max Kellerman. What's it going to be like listening to Stephen A. Smith for 4 hours when he doesn't know anything about a sport that he's getting paid to cover?
Stephen A. Smith will go on one of his insignificant rants about nothing, probably screaming about the popcorn guy in the stand selling popcorn or something that has nothing to do with the fight. And, he'll make a big deal about it, go through his theatrics, and everyone will think, hey, look at Stephen A. Smith, that's awesome. And all style, no substance. I mean, that's the thing. You go on there and you rant and you rave and you try to be controversial, and based off of that, you get put on television. And it doesn't matter how articulate you are or how much you know. And Stephen A. Smith, even when he's on his own show, First Take, he's getting schooled by everyone on there. So
yeah, but
it is what it is. That's
Bob Arum is paying this fool to be the blow-by-blow guy, and the only guy that's going to be on that whole telecast that really know anything about boxing is Brian Kinney. I mean, give me a. I mean, that is a horrible announcing crew that they have set up. That's why I'm curious as what the price is going to be, because some of our money is going to go to Stephen A. Smith.
So, Robbie, would you recommend that people buy this fight?
No.
All right, and I would not recommend that people buy this fight or buy the pay-per-view. Because, go to Twitter, find a stream, do something, man. Get a Cody box, do something, man. Because don't put your hard-earned money down on this fight right here, because it's just not going to be worth it. I'll tell you what, even if Manny Pacquiao takes the upset and Vargas beats him, it's still not going to be worth it. Still not going to be worth it. He's on the tail end of his career anyway. Doesn't matter.
Well, and besides, if Jessie Vargas somehow pulls off the upset, does that mean that Jessie Vargas will get a Lomachenko fight?
Yeah, I tell you what. Let me tell you, if Jessie Vargas let's talk about that for a second. That's an interesting point. All right, let's say he upsets everybody, and he upsets Manny Pacquiao. What's next for Jessie Vargas? What would you do with this guy? Top Rank, I guarantee, would probably put him in a rematch with Tim Bradley. I would try to get him. I would try to get him in the mix with the PBC guys or something like that. I mean, get him on one of those guys. I guess Garcia can't. Put him against Errol Spence or somebody.
Well, remember, Eric, before this whole Pacquiao business came apart, who was Jessie Vargas supposed to fight in August? It was Cal Brook. So the PBC and Top Rank were actually going to work together because, after all, even though Cal Brook is promoted by Eddie Hearn, he's one of Al Heyman's fighters.
Yeah, but hey, look, man, he was supposed to fight. Jessie Vargas was supposed to fight Cal Brook. Who promotes Cal Brook? Who
Eddie Hearn, of course.
Eddie Hearn. And what happened to the match? Did it take place?
No.
Eddie, no contest Hearn, son. Eddie, no contest Hearn. The worst wank on the planet. Go ahead, Beeb. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm just going to say this. right now I have a Superman outfit on, as everyone can see. If Jessie Vargas upsets Manny Pacquiao, the following week I will put on a ballerina outfit. I'll wear a tutu on air live.
Oh,
if
he
Jessie Vargas
did it now.
Manny Pacquiao.
You did it now,
How's
because
that?
now we're going to hold you to
How's
it.
that?
Now we're going to hold you to it, son. You said it on air. You said it live. That's what happens.
The Beeb is going to cross-dress. Look out.
He's got a cross-dress. Davey Diaz in the chat just have a big thumbs up on Cody TV. I'm telling you, that's the way to go, man. If you want to, catch the fights and everything, that's kind of the way to go. All right. So now, also,
look, if boxing fans are going to spend their money, they have to spend it on Ward Kovalev. You don't want to spend it on Pacquiao.
That's the thing, man. I don't mind buying that fight. I don't mind buying the Ward Kovalev fight. I will buy the Ward Kovalev fight. Because that to me is a good fight. That's a pay-per-view worthy fight. Whatever's on the undercard is on the undercard. That's a PPV worthy fight. Because those are two good guys going at it. They're in their primes, everything like that. I've got no problem with that. Got no problem plunking it down for that. But for this fight, come on. For that Juanma fight, I'm pay for Juanma fighting. Come on, Juan Manuel. Come on, man. Get a grip.
Eric, here's the thing. Here's the thing too, because we've fallen victim to this too on Twitter and on Facebook and stuff. Because right now, there's going to be some goofballs listening right now saying, "Oh, why are you talking bad about any boxing fight? You're supposed to promote the sport." And these are the same guys complaining about the matchups too. So if we don't let these guys know that we deserve better quality matchups, and we keep paying for subpar events, then what does that say? We're enabling them. Well, so how could we change anything? How could we get better fights if we don't stop buying the ones that aren't pay-per-view worthy? So look, obviously, I'm not going to sit here and stand in a soapbox and saying that I'm going to make a difference or Eric's going to make a difference. But you know what? It's like anything else. You pay for quality. No one's going to put hard-earned dollars down in anything you buy if you're not getting your money's worth. So boxing should be no different. So yeah, I love the sport of boxing, and that's why I demand that if something's going to be on pay-per-view, that it should be a pay-per-view worthy fight.
Right.
So all the Twitter heads and all the nutbags out there, oh, you guys are being negative. Well, sometimes you got to be negative. You got to call it like you see it, because it's not all sunshine and rainbows in this sport.
The thing is, I mean,
things
hang on one second, Robert. The thing is, man, if they say that we're not promoting the sport, we are promoting the sport, because we have a podcast dedicated to it. We have different shows on here. We and it's all about boxing. You know what I mean? And we're not yes men. Just because there's a fight this weekend, and if we're not excited about it, we're going to say we're not excited about it. We're not yes men. We don't just, it's not just I'm going to tell you what you want to hear. We're going to tell you the truth as we see it, our truth, my version of it. And, hey, this is what I believe. This is my facts as it's coming, my opinions and everything like that. So, again, man, I mean, if anybody's complaining about, we're being too negative or whatever, because, look at the month of October and you pick out a good fight for me. All right. Why don't you do that? And pick out the PBC. I mean, who hasn't been on TV in the past few months or whatever. Pick a good fighter. How come those fights aren't being made? We have all these fighters sitting in a pool. None of these fights are being made. Why? But you go ask Vanas Martirosyan how he feels right about now with Al Haydn. I'm sorry to cut you off, Robbie. Go ahead.
I was going to say, keep a couple of things in mind. There's a couple of reasons why this pay-per-view is so bad. Number one, HBO got out of the Manny Pacquiao business for the simple reason HBO did not want to put on 2 pay-per-views within a 2-week period. HBO told Bob Arum and Manny Pacquiao that if you schedule this fight in October, we'll still be in the Manny Pacquiao business. They wanted to have it this weekend. They wanted it on October 29th because the Fury-Klitschko fight got canceled. So when they found out that got canceled, they went to Arum and Pacquiao and said, we want you to fill this date and we'll still be in the Pacquiao business. But when Arum and Pacquiao said no, that's when HBO pulled out the rug, and that's why we're stuck with a guy like Stephen A. Smith supposedly calling a fight. And I think that's going to be a disaster. Not that the announcer is supposed to be important, but when you're a hardcore boxing fan or even a casual boxing fan and you're tuning into a fight, you want to hear from people that know what the hell they're talking about as far as the sport is concerned. You don't turn in. This is not a shock jock supposedly trying to be a play-by-play announcer. And I think this pay-per-view is going to do awful for many different reasons, but that is a big one. You can't have a loudmouth like him that doesn't know anything about the sport. So keep that in mind. And that's why this pay-per-view is going to do all. I'll be surprised if it does 150,000 minimum. You know, I think it's going to do awful.
That's a very good point. Beeb, what do you think about that? As far as pay-per-view numbers, it definitely goes. It doesn't hit 300,000. I'll put it that way. I don't think it goes over 250. Beeb, what are your thoughts on that?
I agree. I think it may get close to 300,000, but it definitely will not do over 300,000 in my opinion. And, you know, and that's the thing. Manny Pacquiao used to do 1 million pay-per-view buys, 1.5 million, and obviously broke the pay-per-view record with Floyd Mayweather. Did 4.5 million pay-per-view buys, and he's gonna be in the 200,000 range. And this is a guy that was like at the top of the mountain. Now he's hanging around the valley. I mean, this is just. And you know what's crazy? You know, at one point in time, I believe he was guaranteed $20 million a fight. How is Bob Arum going to pay him $20 million for this fight? Where's the money going to come from?
He's restructured that. Yeah, they had to redo that contract.
Yeah. Yeah.
They redid that contract? Yeah. Oh, obviously they had to then, yeah. They had to.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but this is what it is. I mean, you know, you can't stay on top forever. It's the nature of the beast.
He'll be getting $12 million for this.
That's not chump change either. That's a lot of money. And good luck with that. Good luck paying him out with that.
Crying about that.
Yeah. I mean, and good luck paying him out on that, because that $12 million, it's nothing to sneeze at. And I don't know how much profit for pay-per-view they have to make to get him that $12 million. But I guarantee it's probably over 100,000. So I don't know, man. That's going to be tough. Tough for him. I don't know. Let's move ahead here. Also on Saturday from Potsdam, Germany, Giovanni De Carolis versus Tyron Zeuge. It's a rematch, 12 rounds for De Carolis's WBA super middleweight title. Beeb and Robert, I don't know have you seen Giovanni De Carolis fight? Do you know who? I mean,
no, I don't even know. I hate to admit this, but I follow this sport on a regular basis, and I don't even know who that is.
Sounds like a chef or something. Did you work at a restaurant somewhere?
Giovanni De Carolis. I know, right? Chef Giovanni.
Sounds like he works at an Italian bistro. I never heard of him.
Yeah,
with all due respect, I just don't know who he is.
And we follow the sport constantly, man. How do we not know who this guy is, you know?
That's bad. Do a podcast and we don't know who one of the champions are.
Well, he's a super middleweight. Yeah, he's the WBA super middleweight title. Yeah. How about that? But I've never seen him fight, so he might be worth a look. Might be worth a look. I'm looking. Nothing else on the schedule. That's it. So there you go.
Okay. All right.
Pay-per-view fight, but not really the one we wanted to see. That'll be, I guess, in a few weeks here. So, all right. Let's move ahead. Let's move ahead to our news and rumors section. Vladimir Klitschko. Surprisingly, I was shocked. I don't know about you guys, but I was shocked when I heard this news. He will sit out the rest of the year with an injury. Vladimir Klitschko will now sit out until next March or April instead of fighting on December 10th. Klitschko has not fought in 11 months, and he will now be out even longer. Apparently, he has pulled a calf muscle in training, will not be fighting on December 10th. A statement from Klitschko's manager. He said if a fight was signed, they'd probably go ahead with it, but since nothing is signed, they will sit it out. Apparently, Vladimir pulled a muscle in his calf last week. It's nothing bad that we couldn't go through and fight if we had something set up, but we discussed things over the weekend. Regardless of the injury, we decided that if we get good news from the WBA about the fight against Joshua, we could do it in the spring because we'll need more time to market it anyway and promote such a big fight. We have only 5 weeks until December 10th. We still hope the WBA will sanction the fight. I don't believe the WBA is going to sanction the fight. It was pretty evident last week that the WBA wasn't going to sanction the fight. It's pretty evident to me that Klitschko didn't want the fight. What do you make of this here? I mean, and he was all over. He was all over Anthony, but he didn't have anything. They're saying he's injured, but he's not injured. I guess he's hurt. But he's not injured. I don't know. What do you make of this?
Going back to what I said, there's always a little nagging injury that you have. Like, even myself, I wake up in the morning, my wrist hurts, my shoulder hurts. It's just life, man. You know what I mean? Like, when you get into that 40-year-old age group, you're not going to be 100% every day when you wake up. It's just what it is. You got to deal with that. But I was saying about Klitschko needing to get quality fights because of something like this. Like, this could be just a little minor injury. Okay, we know that. But he has been injury prone these last few years. So each and every fight he fights, it's got to be worth something, because who knows when it will be his last. He can only do this. The window, I said, is very small now. It's closing. So he doesn't have much time left. So that's why I'm saying he should make this Joshua fight sooner than later, because if he waits for this Joshua fight, anything can happen. A calf injury, could be a back injury, it could be a knee injury. Anything can happen at this stage of your career. The body just does not work the same way it once did when you were in your 20s and 30s. So they really got to be adamant about making this Joshua fight. WBA belt or no WBA belt, Joshua's IBF belt should be more than enough to be on the line here. And again, it's not the belt that's on the line, it's the fighter you're fighting. That's the more important thing, in my opinion, and most boxing fans' opinions as well. And that's what the history books remember. They're not going to sit there and remember. When people think about, as I said, I hate to beat a dead horse, people look back at that Ray Leonard, Marvin Hagler fight. That fight will go down in history. It will be etched in history forever. Not because the WBC title was on the line. No one cared that the WBA and the IBF stripped Marvin Hagler for going through with that Sugar Leonard fight. People just wanted to see a mega fight. That was a fantasy fight. That was a fight for the ages. And I'm not saying that this AJ Klitschko fight is going to be a fight for the ages, but right now it is a marquee fight in the heavyweight division. You have the, like I said, I'm going to be redundant here, but I said all these things last week. You got the young lion versus the old lion here. You got the passing of the torch element to this fight. And AJ has been getting better with every fight. He has an outstanding style, crowd-pleasing style. One of the most marketable athletes in the world, according to what magazine was that, Eric? If you remember, it wasn't Forbes. It was a very reputable magazine. He's in the top 5 most marketable athletes in the world. So
that I can't remember.
I think it was Forbes.
Maybe it was.
Was it Forbes? Okay, thank you, Robbie. Yeah. So that's the thing. So he's sitting out the rest of this year. More rust is going to go on that old body. So it's like a car, man. You got to start that car up every day. When it's old, you got to keep starting it up, because you never know when that engine won't turn over. Fight is the same way, man. Yeah. So he's got to get this Joshua fight, because this is probably going to be his last big fight in his career. Might as well get it, put it in the history books, get it on your resume, go out like a champion, win, lose, or draw, put it all on the line, and just make this mega fight at heavyweight.
Go to sleep and make it easy.
What are your thoughts on this, Robert? Were you surprised when you heard this news?
No, because let's face it, this is what Klitschko has been doing since since he lost the Fury fight, and Tyson added to it, but Klitschko a couple of times has indicated injuries. That's why I said the clock is ticking, man. Each day you get a little bit older. I just turned 52, man, and I can agree with Beeb. When you wake up in the morning, something will hurt at this age. That's just part of life. That's why I applaud Bernard Hopkins for training for a fight at age 51. I mean, come on, that's hard to do, man. What?
You want to hear something, Robbie?
Okay.
I was pushing the car to Stop and Shop the other day, and I sprained my wrist. That's how bad things get when you're in your 40s.
There you go. See? So, but no, I'm not surprised by this. And like I said, this clock is ticking. So whoever gets Klitschko in the ring, whether it's Lucas Brown, whether it's Joshua, no matter who it winds up being, they're going to have a golden opportunity to put a living legend, as far as the heavyweight division is concerned, asleep and asleep for good.
I agree. And now let's talk about where this leaves Anthony Joshua in this whole thing. And while nothing is official yet, it looks like Eric the Drummer Boy Molina versus Anthony Joshua is on for December 10th in Manchester, England. All right, so here's my deal. We all got on Deontay Wilder for picking Eric Molina. Is it time to give the same treatment to Anthony Joshua?
No.
I would say no, and I'd be willing to go into reasons as to why.
Absolutely, go ahead.
I'll tell you my reason why real quick. Well, go ahead, Rob. You were first. I'm cutting you off. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'll say it up to you.
My reason is Joshua actually tried to make a mega fight that we just discussed. And
that's what I was just going to say. I was going to say the same thing.
He actually tried to make a mega fight. He's not taking Eric Molina to fight him because nobody else wanted to fight him. He actually tried to make the fight that people want to see for this division. So Anthony, now could I have picked somebody better than Eric Molina? Yeah, I think a Joseph Parker would have been better, especially for the UK part of this. But as we learned from Eric Molina, he actually showed up when he was supposed to when he was supposed to lose and lose badly, and took Deontay Wilder 9 rounds before Deontay Wilder could put him away.
Wilder knocked him out.
Could Eric Molina show up? And almost knocked him out. So could Eric Molina make this a good fight? Yes, he could, because Anthony Joshua could do the same thing that Deontay Wilder did and took Molina lightly. But if I'm in Joshua's corner, I review that Wilder tape, and I prepare myself for this, because Eric Molina, once again, is going to show up for a big payday, and he's probably going to look better than what he's supposed to. But I still think AJ walks out of there with a victory. But let's not sell Eric Molina short. He jumped into a heavyweight title once before, and he wasn't supposed to do anything, and represented himself quite well in hostile territory, and he's going to try and do that for the second time. And again, this is another Al Heyman sacrifice. He's sacrificing Eric Molina. He sacrificed Charles Martin. He sacrificed Dominic Brazil, and now the next one on the list is Eric Molina. So hopefully, Eric, you'll show up and you'll give us a good count. How about that?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that I mean, I wasn't real impressed with Eric Molina when he fought Deontay Wilder. I mean, he got pasted in that fight. I don't expect anything different here with Anthony Joshua. I think Joshua paced him too. He's going to go over there and hopefully he gets paid well for it. Now, I don't see why we're not piling on Joshua for taking Eric Molina. Who, and maybe you guys can help me out here. I don't know. Who promotes Anthony Joshua? Who's his promoter?
Eddie Hearn.
Who?
The best promoter in boxing, Eddie Hearn.
Eddie Hearn?
The best promoter in boxing.
Who was he
Eddie
supposed
Hearn.
to fight before
best.
Eric Molina? Who was he supposed to fight?
Vladimir Klitschko.
Did that fight fall apart?
Muscle.
Did that fight fall? So that fight fell apart, right? Eddie Hearn.
Yeah. Right.
Notice a trend here? You guys noticing the trend here?
Yeah.
Eddie Hearn is a wank son. He's a wank son.
Anyway, Joe,
I love Eddie Hearn.
Anyway, Joe, you were going to say that you had your reasons for not jumping on Joshua here. Go ahead.
I can't say it any better than you just did, Robbie. I was going to pretty much say exactly
Stole his thunder.
what you just
Thanks,
said.
Robert. Stole his thunder.
I'm a UK guy, man. I love Anthony Joshua. I love Eddie Hearn, man. I get Christmas cards from both of them, so I'm happy, man.
Okay.
He doesn't get Christmas cards from Eddie Hearns because Eddie Hearns doesn't send them because, he promises to send them, but then he doesn't send them. That's how he is. He promises the big fights and then it doesn't pan out. You know what I'm saying? That's Eddie Hearn for you.
I love Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn is UK's finest.
Eddie Hearn, I got bad news. He sees other people. So there you go. All right. So
That was a good one. That was a good one.
All right.
I like that.
one.
Yeah.
That was good. That was cute. That was cute.
Ronda Rousey, UFC's Ronda Rousey is training with an Olympic boxer after nearly a year on the sideline. Former UFC women's bantamweight champion Ronda Rousey is slated to make her return. She is scheduled to take on current title holder Amanda Nunes in the main event of UFC 207 at the end of the year. An expert on the ground, Rousey's biggest flaws have been in striking, as I saw with her loss to Holly Holm last year. But now she's training with U.S. Olympic boxer Michaela Mayer. Mayer represented the U.S. as part of the Team USA in the 2016 Olympic Games in Rio, and she was one win shy of securing a bronze medal. She's still a pretty good boxer. This a good move for Rousey?
I don't think it could hurt any. You know, I think that Rousey has decent striking. I just think for whatever reason, I think Holly Holm was just she just risen her game for that fight against Ronda Rousey, and Ronda Rousey was just a little bit too overanxious, a little bit too reckless. But you know, to be in the MMA, you know, Rousey definitely has a background in judo. Definitely is a good wrestler. So you know, if you were to pick a weakness in her game, it would be probably the striking. But that's not to say that she hasn't improved on the striking. I've seen definitely some improvement there in her striking, but we'll see if this helps a little bit. You know, I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure, because how much can she learn in such a short period of time? Because she's been fighting her whole life, and I'm not saying this can hurt, but I don't know how much it can help. I don't know if it's going to just turn her into you know, a real excellent striker. She may have shown us all she has at this point in her career, and I don't know how much more she can give us. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's very true. Robert, what do you think? Good move for her?
I don't think it can hurt. I must admit, I don't know a whole lot about this, but anytime you notice a weakness in your fighting game, if somebody's willing to help you with it, you know, go ahead and give it a shot. And that fight is supposed to take place on New Year's Eve. So, what a way to bring in 2017.
Yeah, absolutely. Now let's stay on the women for here a little bit. Claressa Shields is going to make her pro debut. Two-time Olympic gold medalist Claressa Shields will be making her professional debut on the Preview telecast of the Kovalev Ward pound for pound on Saturday, November 19th at T-Mobile Arena in Vegas. So it'll actually be at 7 p.m. The Preview telecast will be at 7 p.m. So that's when she'll make her debut. So it won't be on the actual pay-per-view card, which is nice. But so everybody will get to see her make her debut at 7 p.m. Eastern or 4 p.m. Pacific on that Kovalev Ward undercard. So let me ask you guys. I know we're all anxious to watch her fight. I know we're all anxious to watch her turn pro. Is this, I mean, do you think, let me ask you this, because we know if it's good, we'll watch it. Because, like, look at the UFC. Ronda Rousey's the biggest star by far there. I don't care what you say about Conor McGregor. Ronda Rousey's still the bigger star. Do you think they'll promote her properly? Do you think she could put women's boxing on the map?
Oh, it's going to be tough, because look at the state of men's boxing right now. We're still trying to figure out who the next big men's star in boxing is right now. So I hope so. You know, I think the women deserve some notoriety as well. I think they work just as hard as the men do. So hopefully she can. But you know, Chrissy Martin, she had kind of a gimmick. And I hate to say that, because you know, a fighter shouldn't really need a gimmick. If he or she is a good fighter, then she should, you know, basically be judged by her skills, not who, you know, how she looks, or, you know, the kind of her personality and stuff like that. Obviously, all those things help, but at the end of the day, you know, it's about how good you can fight. And sometimes in this sport, that isn't always taken into account. So it's more or less the total package. She seems to have a good personality. She seems to kind of be a little controversial. She's a little bit flamboyant when she speaks. She's kind of outspoken. So maybe that will help get her some attention. But she could definitely fight her ass off. I'll give her that. So let's cross our fingers. I mean, because I think she deserves to get some good attention. And I think it's been a long time. And I think we need to have a resurgence of female boxing in the sport. I think it would be good for the sport overall, because we're just take a look at what Ronda Rousey's done for MMA.
Yeah.
And who knows? I mean, maybe that can happen in boxing. Maybe not to that level, but we'll see.
Robert, you've gone on record numerous times saying that women don't have any place in the sport. They belong in the kitchen. Are you excited to see Claressa Shields fight?
Oh, God. I didn't exactly put it that way, Eric, but I know where you're going. You're trying to make me out to be a male chauvinist pig, which I'm not.
You vote for Donald Trump, Robbie. You vote for Donald Trump.
Oh, look at that.
I don't. To be honest with you, Joe, I have no idea who I'm voting for.
How are you
Oh, you're
undecided?
still undecided.
Are you
with
undecided?
Like 8-9 days to go.
Oh,
Come on, Robbie.
what's the matter with you?
Anyway, look, I didn't exactly put it that way, but what I did say back when we started this podcast, 2 years ago now?
Yeah. Show 89
today.
today.
I'm not a fan of. Yeah, I'm not a fan of women fighting. I don't like to see two women in the ring beating each other up. It's something I'm not attracted to. It doesn't interest me. And the only woman that ever got any kind of traction, other than Christy Martin, was Layla Ali. And the only reason why she got traction is because of her name. And back then her dad didn't even want her to do it, if you all remember. I don't know. Maybe Claressa Shields can be a Ronda Rousey for this sport, but I personally am not excited about seeing two women fight each other.
Robbie, we're in the 21st century.
Robert
Come
said
on.
he doesn't want to see him in the ring. They should be cooking his breakfast. That's cold-blooded, man.
No,
Get with the program.
I didn't
Get
say
with the
that.
program.
Robbie.
What's the matter with you?
Don't put words in my mouth.
Oh, God.
Well, much to Robbie's chagrin, we're going to stay with women here. Which is my favorite topic. Katie Taylor, Ireland's 2012 gold medalist, has turned professional and will make her debut at Wembley's Arena on November 26th. The five-time world champion Taylor, 30, she's 30 years old, has signed a deal with Eddie Hearns, Matchroom Boxing. So we can all sit back and watch her career come to a screeching halt.
She's a smart woman. She knows who the best program in boxing is.
She
UK
should have just
finest.
took a plane and came stateside and got a real promoter. I'm just saying, So remember the name Katie Taylor, because now that she signed with Matchroom, you will not hear her again. So there you go.
Now, did Claressa Shields sign with who did she sign with, Eric? Do you know?
I don't know.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Yeah, why don't she
Because,
sign with Heyman or Rock?
remember
Because it's a Rock Nation. Top rank in Rock Nation, right?
I was going to say the Ward Kovalev thing is a Rock Nation or main event.
Main events, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, so she's I would assume one of those, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, one of those.
Well, if she's with Kathy Duva, if she's with Kathy Duva, then I think she'll be all right.
There you go. Mikey Garcia returns to the ring on January 28th to face WBC lightweight champion Dejan Zlatikinen. I've seen the guy fight, Zlatikinen. The fight will be at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. It will be on the undercard of the Carl Frampton-Leo Santa Cruz rematch. So Garcia's going for the WBC lightweight championship. He'll probably win. You excited to see him back?
Yeah, Mikey looked good. Mikey looked good in his return, and he said after that fight that he was going to go down to 135 and challenge this guy. He actually called him out, and I'm glad to see that this fight is being put on. And I think that's a great opening act for the Santa Cruz Frampton rematch. Good job by Showtime.
Yeah, I think that's a really good one. And so let's talk about this is a sad one. In Louisville, Kentucky, a portrait of Muhammad Ali that was actually painted and signed by Leroy Neiman. Actually, wasn't signed by Muhammad Ali, painted by Leroy Neiman. Worth about $5,000 is on the walls at the walls of the Ali Center. Was actually stolen. So police say it's still not there yet, but they have a suspicion. I guess they have a person of interest. So hopefully that gets recovered. Yeah. So there you go. PBC planning a big 2017. In 2017, the PB series will continue to broadcast its partnerships with Fox, FS1, Spike, NBC, Showtime, CBS, and Bounce TV. Fox is said to broadcast 3 primetime network shows. NBC will broadcast 3. ESPN will do 12 from April to August. Spike will do regular shows as part of its Combat Friday, and Bounce TV will feature a quarterly show. So there you go. How about that? And now there's a bunch of fights coming up on Jane. So much for, I'll tell you what, so much for before we go into those. What do you think about that? Because PBC was said to be like dying on the vine, but you know, they look like they got a lot of shows lined up. What are your thoughts?
Well, then I find the end of the year then from September onward to be rather suspicious by them if they're able to put on all these shows in 2017. Can they explain why they've went dark after September 9th, after the fight with Danny Jacobs and Sergio Moro? What's their excuse? I mean, you could have put on fights for October, November, and December. That's why I'm really concerned whether this is a sustainable product, because it looks like there's a whole bunch of mismanagement going on here. What do you guys think?
Well, we've been hearing for the last 3 years that they're going to go bankrupt, and lo and behold, you know, we're going into the, what is it? Actually, is this the 3rd season coming up? So
yeah, it'll be the 3rd year. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, they're going into their 3rd year, and they did say this was a 5-year plan. So they were looking to start really heating up after the 5th year. So I'm going to take them at their word. I mean, all products and business models tend to take a loss early on, which I've said before. Have I been happy with everything they've done so far? Absolutely not. But it's just like anything else. The sport of boxing on a whole has really not done anything great. I mean, that Floyd-Pacquiao fight was supposed to be the creme de la creme, the coup de grace, so you will, if you will. And obviously it didn't turn out that way in a lot of people's minds after they watched the fight. But the numbers don't lie. It did 4.5 million pay-per-view buys, and because of the way the fight ended and people weren't happy with it, boxing has seemed to take a hit all across the board. So it's not just PBC. So in this current environment of boxing, I think PBC is doing no worse than any other entity. So that's the thing. And people want to just dump on PBC. Maybe the bar was set higher for them. Maybe the expectations were higher for them. But they're not making us pay for pay-per-view fights, with the exception of that Floyd Mayweather fight. And what other pay-per-view fights have they really put out there? For the most part, they've been putting fights on free TV, whereas these other promoters are putting fights on pay-per-view that aren't any better than the ones that are on free TV. So I don't understand why people are so upset about the PBC, why people are digging the PBC's grade, and why everyone's up in arms about the PBC when, boxing has just not been big this year on a whole. So I don't think we can really point the finger at PBC as being the problem, and it's not their fault. It just happened.
Very true. All right. So let's talk about Showtime here real quick. Showtime just sent out a press release this week and said they have a bunch of championship fights in 2017. Jesus Cuellar versus Abner Maris. I think that's coming up on December 10th. Jamal Charlo versus Julian Williams. Badu Jack versus James DeGale. Yeah, Badu Jack versus James DeGale is set for January 14th. January 28th is Carl Frampton versus Leo Santa Cruz. And then and I just butchered this guy's name, Dejan Zlatikainen versus Mikey Garcia, and he's 18-0 with 11 knockouts, and Garcia's 35-0. Should be a good one. February 11th, Adrian Broner versus Adrian Granados, the powerhouse, which is Adrian Granados. And just before you dismiss this guy that Adrian Broner's fighting, I want you to listen to his record. All right? 18 wins, 4 losses, 2 draws, and 12 knockouts. All right? That's no cupcake there. That's a great, great fighter. March 4, Danny Garcia, who's 32-0, will fight Keith Thurman, who's 27-0. What do you think about that lineup, guys?
That's a killer lineup. So we're complaining. This is the thing. This has been kind of the playbook for Al Heyman. So go on like basically a drought where we won't get, as Robbie said, too many fights for a period of time, and then out of the blue he'll just come out big and stronger than ever, and he'll just give us a nice buffet of excellent fights. So this is pretty much his playbook. He's been doing this for a long time. He goes through these periods of time where he may not put on good fights, and then out of nowhere he just rattles off a string of a strong schedule of fights, and then this is what we have. I think those are great fights. That's something to look forward to, and I don't think anyone should be complaining about those fights. Those are awesome fights. So we're gonna get 2017 started off in style.
They're all good fights. All good fights. Leslie Scott in the chat is actually he's asking, is there any idea who Triple G will fight next? No, there's not. He's going through training camp right now through Big Bear to fight nobody. It's just a training camp. He doesn't have any fights lined up. He just wants to keep in shape, and that's fine. They're looking to Jacobs. I mean, Jacobs is the mandatory. Why this is still going on, I have no idea. I guess there's some good faith there. That's why the WBA hasn't stripped Jacobs. They want to fight Jacobs. They want to take care of the mandatory. The WBA absolutely sucks. Why they haven't stripped Jacobs by now for this?
The WBA is a fucking idiot.
Right. Why they haven't stripped Jacobs by now, I have no idea why. The fight didn't get made. He wanted a 75. I guess he wanted a 60-40 split instead of the guarantee 75-25 that normally happens. Yeah, I don't know. He said he thinks there's Andy Lee, but yeah, that fight hasn't been materialized. They're still going after Jacobs. There will be no fight for Triple G this year. That December 10th date he was supposed to fight is gone.
That date now is supposed to go to Terrence Crawford on the 10th. We don't know who he's going to fight.
Yeah, I heard it. And his name, I wasn't real thrilled with it. I heard John Molina's name.
What a disaster.
Yeah. And that's the guy that Bronner fought, wasn't it? Bronner, and then I'm trying to think of who else fought him.
And Lucas Batiste fought him too.
Yeah, and they're talking about putting him out there. I'm like, what? Really? Oh man.
Well, my question in regards to Adrian Broner, Eric, we covered the story a couple of weeks ago that Broner was supposed to be lined up to fight Scotland's Ricky Burns. What happened with that?
I don't know. I was really surprised when I saw the schedule too, and I don't know if this is a tune-up for Ricky Burns or what. Adrian Granados doesn't exactly have a stellar record. I've never heard of him. I've never seen him fight. My guess is that it's going to be a tune-up for Ricky Burns, and they're gonna target the Ricky Burns fight for maybe June or something like that. I don't know, but if you look at Adrian Granados, he's not exactly a world beater by any stretch. So that's why he gets a fight with Adrian Bronner. You can't be that good if you're going to fight him. So he vetoes good fighters, and will cherry pick the best champions, that he can find, a la Ricky Burns.
Yeah, well, he's learning from the best, Floyd Mayweather.
Right, exactly. All right, this next one is pretty interesting here.
But no, that's a good schedule they have. So
I think so. I think so. Everybody's kind of getting the tombstone out, calling the Undertaker and everything like that for the PBC. But it looks pretty good, man. That Badu Jack James DeGale fight's going to be awesome. The Frampton Santa Cruz match.
I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to that.
And then, of course, you got the Garcia Thurman fight. If Garcia gets past Sammy Vargas, I guess it is, in a couple of weeks. Yeah.
Right. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And don't be surprised if Julian J. Rock Williams upsets that apple cart and beats Charlo.
He's going to kill Charlo.
I think he will.
He's going to kill Charlo. Yeah. That's not even going to be he is going to demolish J Rock's for real, man. He's going to demolish Charlo for sure. Yeah, that's not even going to be a
What
question.
do you think, Beeb? You think Williams is going to win, or you give Charlo a chance here?
I'm picking Williams. I like Williams in that fight.
We're all in agreement. What do you know?
Leslie Scott.
All right.
I'm getting some grief from Leslie Scott in the chat here. He said, I'm from Scotland. Give Ricky Burns a break. He'll fight anyone. And I know he isn't the best, though. But and so I was like, well, look, man. And I'm not ragging on Ricky Burns, but Adrian Bronner wouldn't be fighting him if he was, if he was a class guy. I shouldn't say that because he's a great fighter. He's a world champion. If he posed any danger to Adrian Bronner at all, then he wouldn't be fighting him. Ricky Burns is a really good fighter, but as we all know, I think he's on the tail end of his career. And he's right. He's a fighter, man. And Leslie's right. He's an absolute fighter. He will fight anybody. You know what I mean? So, but I think he would bite off a little bit more than he can chew with Adrian.
Thank you for listening from Scotland, man.
I know, right? Look at that. World renowned, nationally known, and locally accepted. There we go. Vanes Martirosyan apparently has become the first real fighter, aside from Danny Jacobs, who kind of came out, kind of didn't. A fighter has finally called out the powerful advisor Al Heyman in public, and it is Vanes Martirosyan. And I don't know what kind of impact he can actually have because he's not, I don't know. Nobody really is beating down the door to watch him fight. Nobody is, he's not the biggest name out there. But I'm glad he came out, and he should. Really, this guy, and he's frustrated with the same thing we're frustrated with. The lack of fights, everything like that. He says he went to Twitter and he says, I want all my boxing fans to know I'm not happy with my manager, Al Heyman, and my promoter, Tom Brown. They're holding me back. I have too much respect for this BS. They don't want to answer my calls, but they answer my tweets. In my opinion, champs keep cherry picking around each other. Free Vanes. # free Vanes. I'll tell you what, I hope he sets a trend. I really hope he sets a trend because he is he's like I said, he's not the biggest name on the roster. And I don't know how much weight it's going to carry. But if this guy speaks up, and then maybe you got another guy that speaks up, and then another guy that speaks up, hopefully this causes a windfall because he's not doing right by these guys. He's really not. They're not getting fights. Beeb, was this a good move by Vanes, and do you think it'll have any impact on Al Heyman?
I don't think it'll have any impact on Al Heyman, but I'm not sure if it was a good move because this is type of stuff I think that's better settled behind closed doors. I don't think you should air your business out there. Generally, when that happens, you end up saying things that you regret, and then you can't take them back. So, Al Heyman's been a very successful manager, been very successful with his dealings in boxing. He knows how to make people money. Very few people have complained about him, but I have said that because he has 200 fighters under contract, it's going to be hard to make all of them happy. It's going to be hard for them all to get dates. So, but regardless of that, Vanes Martirosyan's complaining about how people are talking to him on Twitter, and then he's going back to that same sort of type of communication. You don't air your dirty laundry out on Twitter. You don't put your life out there for other, total strangers to see. This is business should be settled behind closed doors. So I'm not really a big fan of him, voicing his opinion like this. But to each his own. I just disagree with this.
Okay, let me rebuttal this, if I may. Like I just pointed out a few minutes ago, guys, the last PBC card that we saw on US TV was September 9th. We didn't have any fights in October. We don't have any PBC fights for November. I mean, I can understand why somebody would finally say something like, look, why aren't we getting fights? And Vanes Martirosyan could become the Curt Flood of boxing. For those of you that don't follow baseball, Kurt Flood in 1971 took Major League Baseball to court, and that's how we wound up with free agency in Major League Baseball. Of course, it cost him the rest of his career for doing that, but now baseball players have negotiating rights. They can sign whatever kind of contracts they want, and maybe Vanes Martirosyan will become the Kurt Flood of boxing. Maybe he'll set a trend. It's not a good idea to air your dirty laundry in public, but I'm really surprised that nobody has said anything in regards to this before now, because like Joe just pointed out, Al Heyman, successful businessman or not, has got over 200 boxers under contract. And if you're going to sign that many fighters, you've got to find ways to have them have fights. If you don't have TV dates for them, give them off TV fights if necessary. And you've got ESPN already publicly saying, as soon as our contract is done, we're no longer going to the boxing business, because they don't want to deal with the PBC anymore. They're going to go after the UFC contract, because apparently it's going to end very soon, and that's what ESPN's plans are. How many more of these networks are going to follow ESPN's ways if Al Heyman doesn't provide them with fights? I can understand where Vanes is coming from. Is it a good idea to do it publicly? No, but I'm really surprised that other fighters haven't stepped forward before now.
Well, wait a second here. Now, ESPN, according to some other sources, and we reported on this earlier in the year or whatever, but ESPN, according to some sources, was said to have dumped the PBC or dumped them after contract. This is 2017. ESPN will broadcast 12 shows from April to August. First show is going to be on April 14th. They're not getting.
Well, I mean, Eric, I know. Apparently, when they signed, what was it, last year? Apparently, they signed a 2 or 3 year deal, but they publicly said in 2016, as soon as their contract ends, and I don't know when that is, apparently they're going to get out of the boxing business. So I guess we're going to have to wait and see how these 12 shows do, because remember, we reported over the summertime about how awful these ESPN shows were, and that's one of the reasons why they were complaining.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I thought, when does the contract end for them? I thought it was 2016. I thought that was the last show. That was what was
I don't know
being reported. Is that was the last show. And that's the other thing too. I think a lot of that was like scuttlebutt and everything like that. I mean, we never really had again, it was more rumor than anything else, because here we are in 2017. I mean, 12 shows, that's nothing to sneeze at.
No.
So, all right.
I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with other fighters, whether they're willing to follow Vanes Martirosyan, and if any of the networks finally say something. We'll wait and see. And another question: are these still time buys with the networks, or do the networks actually have sponsors for these shows now?
Yeah, that I don't know. Well, I mean, you're saying they didn't have sponsors. They did. They had commercials. It wasn't commercial free. I mean, so they had to get sponsored. So so he puts down the money, but he makes it back via sponsorship.
Right. He actually buys the time from the networks. Now, I don't know if that's still the case, but that's how it started.
Right. But I mean, he was selling advertising. He was selling commercials and everything like that. So, I mean, clearly he was
self-advertising too, Robbie.
Yeah.
Right. I know that. No, I wasn't saying he wasn't, guys.
Okay.
But no, it'll be interesting to see what happens with this. I'm beginning to have my doubts about this whole business plan of his.
I don't know. I mean, look, I mean, he's we can have doubts about it all he wants, but he's got a whole year full of fights here. I mean, he's got a whole year full of plans and rolling this out via broadcasting and everything like that. And I'm looking here, and it looks like it all ends toward right around the August time, and which is kind of when it ended here. So I wonder if this is like more seasonal or what. I don't know.
Yeah, well, see, I wish somebody would explain that. Anyway, go ahead, Joe.
My whole thing was this, because everyone was talking about how the investment from Waddell and Reed was going to, he was going to dry that up and there was going to be no money left. But you know what? This guy's got money too. He's got ways of generating money. There's always going to be a revenue stream because boxing has been taking a hit. Like I said, HBO's budget went from $90 million all the way down to like $30 million. So the sport has been downsizing. So like I just don't understand why everyone puts such a spotlight on PBC and questions what they're doing when everyone else's numbers have been going down as well. So he's not drying up all his investment money because what he's doing is he's spacing the fights out. And again, who knows what he's paying everybody. He's still paying, people more than other promoters are paying them. But again, a lot of these guys are turning down fights and they're fighting lesser guys. So maybe, the purses have been smaller. So that's kind of saving them a little money in that regard. But all in all, I mean, if the networks are going to continue to buy the fights, then he's going to be able to put them on television. That's just, it is what it is. That's the name of the game. It's supply and demand. If you're going to sell something and people are willing to buy it, then guess what? I mean, you're going to be able to, put fights on if they're going to give you those television slots. So until they continue to give him, television slots, he's going to continue to be able to have fights on TV. I mean, it's just not going to end like everyone's saying it's going to end if these networks are still willing to put the fights on. So,
yeah,
basic economics, really.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I mean, do we have, is it a fact? I mean, like I said, I've heard the rumor just like everybody else, but I don't know if it's fact or not that he's paying the TV networks to put his fights on to begin with. I don't know if he's doing it now, but that's how it started off. I mean, is that actually a fact or is that, I don't know. I don't have a contract. I don't have his contract. I don't know what he's doing.
Yeah.
I hear he's borrowing money from Waddell Reed, but that's, well, it's not our problem. I mean, we're just, go ahead.
No, but that's the problem with the press, though. Everyone's talking as if they have the contract in front of them. They have the whole financial plans laid out in front of them, and they're going by posts on Reddit about what the fund, the Waddell and Reed fund is worth now and how it's lost money and stuff. But the Waddell and Reed fund is not just PBC. It encompasses a lot of different investment. Investment instruments. It's not just PBC.
Well, they have no idea. They have no idea.
Let's break.
No one has any idea though. But everyone's sitting there saying that PBC is going out of business based off of just their own perception.
Yeah.
Let's break this down. It would be really simple for all. I know Al Heyman, for whatever reason, doesn't like to talk to the press, but it would be he could really quiet this whole thing if he called a press conference and laid everything out for everybody so everybody could understand what was going on. I think it's time for Al to come from behind the curtain and make a public appearance and set the record straight. I think if he himself were to do that, I think it would shut everybody up. If he would come out publicly and explain everything.
Well, he does that and then nobody talks about him anymore.
But to be honest,
Yeah,
well, to be honest with you, I mean, he does have press people to do that for him, but this schedule should speak for itself, in my opinion, right?
This doesn't look like a dying man's schedule.
I think this schedule is good, guys. Don't get me wrong. This is starting to look like a seasonal thing with him instead of year round.
Yeah, who cares? And if we get these kind of fights, Yeah. And it's really, it's not a seasonal thing because we're still getting fights in December. We're still getting fights in November and December from the PBC. I think December 10th or whatever. You got Morris and Cuellar. But not only, we look at October. October had nothing for anybody. Main events, top rank, nobody had anything going on. Right. Golden Boy,
Well, what's everyone else doing? That's the
right,
thing. Like,
nothing.
Everyone's sitting there focusing on PBC. What's everyone else doing?
Right. Right.
I just don't get it.
And somebody in the chat just said, I don't get the PBC hate. What idiot would hate it? They could do pay-per-view when they can get it for free. Absolutely. That's why I haven't been a big fan of the PBC recently because of the matches and the mismatches, more specifically the mismatches they've been putting on. But yeah, I've been a big promoter. I hate pay-per-view. I hate the pay-per-view model. We shouldn't have to pay for it, and if we're going to pay for it, give us Ward Kovalev and not, Wanma versus, and I know that's not PBC. I'm just giving you an example. But they haven't been giving us stellar cards as of late, but they got enough fighters to do that. And they have the quality of fighters to do that. So yeah, there it is. So, all right, let's go ahead and move ahead here. We're going to move ahead to our welterweight fantasy tournament. And what we've done here is we've put 32 of the biggest names in welterweight history and put them in a big bracket, a la like the NCAA tournament, you could say. Each week, we'll break down the fights and give you the results according to the way we think it would have happened. The 3 judges for each fight will be myself, Joe Habib, and a 3rd judge, which will be the computer program. And the computer will give its opinion on how the fight would have played out. All fights will be 12 rounds. Let's get started. Some big fights this weekend. Big fights here. Buddy McGirt versus Sugar Shane Mosley. Buddy McGirt is known as a pretty good trainer back in the day, but back in his day, he was one of the top welterweight fighters in the world. And Shane Mosley made it to the Final Four in our lightweight fantasy tournament, and he's trying to make it further this time around. Let's break this fight down. Beeb, in the power category, who do you have?
Shane Mosley by a mile.
Yeah, absolutely. Speed, I have Mosley as well. I have Mosley in power, and I have him in speed. What about you?
Mosley.
Yeah, me too. Now, let's talk about the chins here for a minute. Who do you have on the chin category?
This is tough. Oh, wow. I'm going to give it a push in the chin department. I think both guys are pretty durable.
Yeah, that's exactly what I have. Boxing ability, I actually give this to McGirt.
I do as well.
The X factor.
Buddy McGirt was definitely the more technical guy.
Very much so. Very technical fighter. The X factor here, to me, is going to be Shane Mosley's power. And as fast and as good as Shane Mosley is, McGirt is a very good defensive boxer. He's a very good offensive boxer. But will he be able to avoid Shane Mosley's power? What is he going to do when he gets hit with it? And will he get hit flush? Who knows? What about your X factor?
I'm going to have to say the same thing because, Shane Mosley, even in his advanced stage when he fought Antonio Margarito, definitely his power was the key element in that fight because he definitely hurt Margarito over and over again in that fight. And Margarito, who's one of the most durable boxers in modern times, at least in our modern times, he was stopped by Shane Mosley. So that was an impressive display of power by Shane Mosley in that fight. So definitely Shane Mosley gets the edge in power.
Absolutely.
And that's it. And that would be a big determining factor in my opinion.
I see the fight playing out like this. Buddy McGirt, to me, was a very technical boxer, and typically would have had, he would have his way with fighters like Shane Mosley. However, Mosley is much different because of the power and speed that he brings to the ring. McGirt will be able to hit, he'll be able to hit Mosley, but in order to do so, he's going to have to take some leather. My feeling is that McGirt will be hit with one too many times and start to become a little bit too defensive in this fight. This will lead to Mosley building a lead on the scorecard. I don't think Mosley is slick enough to get McGirt in trouble or knock him out, but I think he gets his attention, and I think that McGirt will think twice before taking any chances. I see Shane Mosley winning a 7-5, 8-4 type of fight. My pick is Shane Mosley via unanimous decision.
Shane Mosley does have the power, but he also is a physically strong guy when he wants to use his strength. And that was another element he brought to that Margarito fight. He would grab Margarito, wrap him up, walk him backward, maneuver him into spots where he wanted to, where he could line him up with the power shots. He basically walk him into shots, to basically turn him into shots, just on sheer physical strength. And he did not allow Margarito to get his offense going. Every time Margarito got close, Shane Mosley grabbed him, walked him back, and kept him off balance. Buddy McGirt, as technical as he is, wasn't the biggest guy in the world. Didn't have, he had pretty long arms for his height, but still, he was a short guy. He was a small guy. He wasn't an exceptionally hard puncher. He was a guy that had to tag you, multiple times to get you out of there, where Shane Mosley could put the lights out with one shot, whether it be to the body or the head. So the big thing here is, would Buddy McGirt be able to do anything to slow up Shane Mosley's attack, nullify his explosiveness and his, overly aggressive offensive style? That's the big question mark here. That I don't think he would be able to. I think Shane Mosley would be able to kind of walk Buddy McGirt backward. I think, as you said, I agree 110%. I think Buddy McGirt may kind of be a little bit apprehensive in this fight, may go into a defensive shell, and won't be able to get anything off of significance that's going to really hurt Shane Mosley or stop Shane Mosley, because the only guys that could really do damage to Shane Mosley were the guys that could hurt him. And you can say what you want in the Floyd Mayweather fight. Floyd Mayweather's not a big puncher, but he hit Shane Mosley, snapped his head back on more than one occasion, and got his attention. I don't think Buddy McGirt's going to be able to land those significant shots that Floyd Mayweather did, because I think he's going to be pushed back constantly. And as good as Buddy McGirt is technically as a fighter, he's nowhere near Floyd Mayweather, and he's nowhere near the counter puncher that Floyd Mayweather was. So I just see, Shane Mosley imposing his will on Buddy McGirt. And I think this is an 8-4, maybe even a 9-3 type fight for Shane Mosley.
All right, there you have it. Shane Mosley. I have picked Shane Mosley. Beeb has picked Shane Mosley. The computer pick is Shane Mosley by 62%. Very close fight on the computer. Shane Mosley has now advanced to the Elite Eight of the welterweight tournament. And we'll show you the bracket here in a few minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, right. Think of that, man. He was in the Final Four of the lightweight bracket. He's now in the Elite Eight. Not bad. Not bad. All right. The next one, the main event. Manny Pacquiao, the Pac-Man, versus Manos de Piedras, Roberto Duran. Manny Pacquiao will go down as one of the best pound-for-pound fighters ever. He won a world title. He won world titles in multiple weight classes. Roberto Duran was the winner of the fantasy lightweight tournament. He is now trying to win the fantasy welterweight tournament. Wow, wow. Think about that for a minute. Let that sink in. All right, let's break this fight down. This is very, very interesting. Both fighters, I think their best weight was probably at, maybe Pacquiao 140, Duran definitely at 135. But, Duran was no slouch at 147 either. He was a, decent fighter, pretty good. So was Pacquiao. Now, let's talk about the power. I still think that, as powerful as Pacquiao is, I got to go with Duran on the power. I think he's going to be stronger. He's going to be bigger. He's going to be stronger. I've got to go with the power. I got to give it to Duran. B, what about you?
You don't call him hand to stone for nothing, people.
Right.
This is a tough one because both guys were not gigantic punches at 147. There were harder punches in lighter weight classes, but speed is power. And Manny Pacquiao, even at 147, was very explosive. And you can say what you want about the Cotto fight, you could say what you want about the De La Hoya fight, how they weren't really clean knockouts. But he hurt those guys really bad.
That's legit.
So yeah, this is a tough one. This is gonna sound blasphemous, but I'm gonna give the slight edge of power to Manny Pacquiao at 147.
Yeah, not at all.
Yeah,
not at all.
Okay.
All right. Speed. This is a tough one too. Now Duran was not a slow fighter. He was a very fast fighter. However, he was much faster at 135 than he was at 147. I think the speed definitely has to go to Pacquiao here.
Yeah, Manny Pacquiao not only was fast with his hands, which Roberto Duran was very quick with his hands, but he was exceptionally fast with his feet. And you can see the trouble that Roberto Duran had chasing Sugar Ray Leonard around the ring. And, foot speed, I think Manny Pacquiao has the edge in foot speed by a mile over Roberto Duran. So, I'm going to say Manny Pacquiao definitely is faster than Roberto Duran.
Yeah, I think so. Now let's talk about the chin here. I think that, Duran, Hearns is the only one that I saw him get knocked out cleanly, where he got his lights put out. That's it. And that was one of the biggest knockouts I've ever seen. Just unbelievable. I got to go with Duran on the chin.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Duran as well on the chin. Duran was definitely a durable fighter.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, so let's talk about boxing ability here. This is a tough one. I mean, both guys can box. Both guys are very talented boxers. I think this is 6 in one hand, half a dozen in the other. I'm going to push it. I think this is a push.
I'm actually going to give the edge in boxing ability to Roberto Duran because Roberto Duran really had a very underrated jab. He was really good. One aspect of his game because his approach to boxing is similar to Manny Pacquiao because they were both swarmer type guys. They like to kind of swarm in and try to overwhelm their opponent. But the thing about Roberto Duran was he was very crafty. And people didn't give him enough credit for his craftiness because he could throw feints.
Oh,
he
yeah.
He knew how to open up. He knew how to open guys up a lot. And he may not have been as dynamic as Manny Pacquiao, particularly in the athletic department. But he just was really, really cagey. That's the proper word to use when talking about Roberto Duran. He was cagey. You know how to throw that little feint. You know how to touch you in certain areas to get you to move your hands around a little bit and create those openings. And once he hurt you, he could finish you. And he was a very, very accurate, really precise puncher, precise combination puncher. And he always had his feet underneath him, whereas Manny Pacquiao sometimes has been off balance. But as I said earlier, he was able to get away with it because he was so quick that he could make mistakes and people couldn't really capitalize on his mistakes because he was so quick enough that they couldn't really see what he was doing. They couldn't react to him fast enough. Whereas Roberto Duran, he was really underrated boxer in his own right. So I'm going to give the edge to Roberto Duran. I think he's a better all-around boxer.
Interesting that you said that. My X factor is Roberto Duran's boxing ability. And Pacquiao's a good boxer. Duran's a good boxer. But I really don't see this being a slugfest. I don't see both guys throwing caution to the wind. I don't think it's a slugfest. I think that Duran's boxing ability is going to be the X factor here. And can Manny Pacquiao solve this riddle with his speed? I don't know. What about your X factor?
My X factor is going to be Manny Pacquiao's foot speed because I saw Roberto Duran have fits against Sugar Ray Leonard because Sugar Ray Leonard did not stand in front of him. He kept moving and kept forcing Roberto Duran to chase him. And Roberto Duran, who's outstanding at cutting off the ring and is an outstanding inside fighter, but, he could not track down Sugar Ray Leonard. And Manny Pacquiao has quick feet, probably, arguably, maybe even quicker feet than Sugar Ray Leonard. And then Sugar Ray Leonard is my favorite fighter of all time, but I got to call it like I see it. Manny Pacquiao has exceptionally quick feet.
Very much.
And I think that would be definitely the X factor here. I think it would give Roberto Duran fits.
All right, let's talk about the fight. This is a tough one. This is a real tough one here. I see Pacquiao winning the early rounds and dictating the fight with his speed. However, it wasn't like Duran is slow. I see Duran figuring out Pacquiao around the third or fourth rounds, getting him to bite on those feints that he loved to throw. Duran was a master when it came to feinting his opponent. Both of these guys can hit, but I think Duran carried a bigger punch. That being said, I don't think he puts Pacquiao away. I think this fight actually looks a lot like the Marquez fights with Pacquiao. I think Duran surprises everyone, uses his boxing ability to pound out a unanimous decision over Manny Pacquiao. My pick to go to the Elite Eight is Roberto Duran via unanimous decision. Beeb, how do you see this fight going down?
Well, as I said earlier, both guys were, though this wasn't their best weight, but quite honestly, in my opinion, I think Manny Pacquiao was better at 147 than Roberto Duran was. And Roberto Duran didn't really stay that long at 147. He ended up going up to 154 shortly, after campaigning at 147, and then went up to 160. Again, I just think Manny Pacquiao's foot speed. I just cannot get that Sugar Ray Leonard fight out of my head, where I just saw Roberto Duran chase him around the ring and just punch that air. Manny Pacquiao is a guy that never stands still for anyone. When he's right and he's in his prime and he's really flowing, that ambush style of fighting that he has, it's just so hard to nail him down, and you have to have exceptional timing to do that. And I'm not saying Roberto Duran does not have good timing, but he just doesn't have that one. Juan Manuel Marquez just had Manny Pacquiao's number. And Roberto Duran, if these guys were to fight one time, and obviously Roberto Duran wouldn't be familiar with them because he'd just be watching them on tape and stuff. It took Marquez a couple fights to really get the blueprint down. The first fight, I thought Manny Pacquiao won, and then the second fight, I thought, Marquez won, and the third fight, I thought Marquez won. But this is the first go-around for both these guys. And I think, it's going to be hard for Roberto Duran to really gauge Manny Pacquiao's speed, really time those onward rushes, those darting in attacks from Manny Pacquiao. And I think Manny Pacquiao, when he's right, also throws a lot of punches. The volume in his volume and his punch output is immense. And I don't know if Roberto Duran's going to be able to keep up with that fast pace. So I think all in all, I see Manny Pacquiao being very elusive, being hard to really pin down for Roberto Duran, as good as he was. And I just see Manny Pacquiao outworking Roberto Duran and getting an unanimous decision, maybe an 8 rounds to 4, 7 rounds to 5 type fight. So I'm going to go with Manny Pacquiao by unanimous decision over Roberto Duran.
Wow. All right. So I take Roberto Duran via decision. The Beeb takes Manny Pacquiao by decision. It's now up to the computer to decide everything. The computer pick, with 84% of the wins, and advancing to the Elite Eight in the Fantasy Welterweight Tournament, Manos de Piedra, Roberto Duran will advance.
Oh.
So there you go.
Hey Eric, don't you think if Roberto Duran was fighting Manny Pacquiao next Saturday, he would figure out all those weaknesses that we discussed earlier?
No.
Yes, I do. You can't have a welterweight tournament without Roberto Duran demolishing Manny Pacquiao. That's the only way that fight could have gone.
The computer should have its judging license revoked after that.
Oh, wow. Wow. All right, let me see if I can do the screen share here. Why is it backwards here?
Okay.
What's going on with this thing, man?
There it is.
There we go. Okay, you got it now?
There you go.
Looks good.
All
Looks good. We got it. Yeah,
all right. So, Shane Mosley
90
advances.
seconds.
Oh, shut up. 90 seconds. I'll be on here as long as I want to be on here.
Well, hey, she's doing her job, man.
Now you're a proponent. Now you're with the ERA now. Now you're with the equal rights. Now you want the women. It's okay now.
Now you're going to defend.
Now he's going to defend.
Now you're going to defend her now.
Right, there you go. Now he's going to defend her.
After she interrupts us every show with that 90-second warning.
Right, and now he wants to defend her now.
Hey, I know it's irritating. I've heard the same.
60 seconds.
Yeah, now go ahead and defend that. Fire her.
Anyway.
Wow,
Fire Robert's
look at
British
this.
assistant.
Look at this.
Kid
Look at this
Gavilan.
Elite Eight.
Kid Gavilan is Sugar Ray Leonard next week, and Jose Napoles versus
Okay.
Floyd Mayweather next week. So let's take a look at this. Sugar Ray Robinson versus Thomas Hearns in the Elite Eight. That is going to happen. Shane Mosley will now go on to face either Jose Napoles or Floyd Mayweather. Henry Armstrong, or actually Oscar De La Hoya, will face Felix Trinidad in a rematch. And Roberto Duran will face either Kid Gavilan or Sugar Ray Leonard. I was looking through this the other day, and we could possibly have 3 of the 4 fights could be rematches. How about that? De La Hoya Trinidad is going to be a rematch. Could be Mayweather Mosley, could be, and it could be Ray Leonard and Duran.
Right.
Wow.
All right.
Wow. How about that?
This isn't a fantasy tournament anymore because these fights really happen, some of them.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
There we go. And it looks like I am back in my Day of the Dead mask. How about that? All right. So before we clock out here, 718 has been waiting, and they waited through the fantasy tournament. 718, before we get out of here, you are live on the air.
Oh, how you doing? This is Suleiman giving you a call this night. That's a nice fantasy match. You guys described those fighters very beautifully.
Thank you, sir.
I think the computer did a good pick. Mano Piedra.
Yeah.
Piedra would, in my opinion, he would have won that fight because he would have studied the fighter, and at that time he was very educated, and he didn't have too many problems with southpaws. He had a problem with right-handed fighters, orthodox fighters that knew how to box very well and that could get into his mind, like Sugar Ray Leonard, like Thomas Hearns. But a southpaw he didn't have too many problems with. Only later in his career against Camacho. That's about it.
Look at that. We didn't even bring that up.
Did you guys talk about the Juan Manuel Lopez?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
let's talk about that.
Yeah, the Juan Manuel Lopez fight, it was an emotional thing, It was for Puerto Rican rights, you know what I mean? It was a grudge match. People didn't some people don't understand it was a grudge match. It was about honor. I mean, and also like Juan Manuel one time was considered a legend when he was unbeaten before he lost to City. This guy was a Puerto Rican legend. I mean, he used to always talk about like when you're fighting in a championship fight, you gotta go to the next level. And last night, he was able to go to the next level and put away this fighter. And at first, when he got mad at the corner, I thought he got mad at the corner because he didn't throw the towel. This kid was highly overmatched. He was outclassed. He was scared of the power of Juan Manuel later on in the rounds where he started feeling the power. And the kid had no amateur career. And at the end, you could see that the father hugged the Juan Manuel and gave him his props. That's all he wanted was his props. He only lost by knockout when he moved up in weight to world-class fighters. He never was beaten by any guy that was not a world-class fighter. So finally, Juan Manuel's got some street cred, some respect, which he lost. And I would like to see a third rubber match where Orlando Salido or Vargas, see how he does. He has strong legs. He was stalking his fighter. If he does that against another fighter, and for a world title, it'll be very nice. And little Jessie Vargas, everybody's talking about Manny Pacquiao. I mean, even though he was a fantasy match, I would like to see Jessie Vargas get the options that Manny Pacquiao is getting before this fight. If he knocks out Manny Pacquiao, I want to see a Keith Thurman try to unify against him. I want to see him being considered to fight Triple G, all these guys everybody's mentioning, because I want to see venues open up for Bob Arum. This is a fighter that nobody wants to mention. In my opinion, I think he knocked out Timothy Valley, but they didn't give him his props. The referee retired. I mean that was shrewd management there, because to me he knocked that man out. They should have given him a rematch. Well, Manny Pacquiao fight Jessie Vargas in a rematch if Jessie Vargas knocks him out. This is what I wanted to see. And how will we be considered in the welterweight division after this fantasy match that you guys been talking about? I mean, how you guys see Jessie Vargas if he knocks out Manny Pacquiao? Is he going to be considered one of the all-time greats? You guys have a great night, and thank you for giving me some time.
Oh, thank you for calling, man. I appreciate it. Absolutely appreciate it. Thank you so much. Great call. Well, let's answer his question here. Do you think that Jessie Vargas will be considered an all-time great if he knocks out Manny Pacquiao? I don't know. I think it's way too early to tell, honestly. If he were to just knock out Manny Pacquiao and then just say, I'm riding off in the sunset, probably not. It's going to depend on his body of work. But I tell you what, knocking out Manny Pacquiao would be an excellent start. Because I'll be honest with you, man, I didn't think he was going to get past Saddam Ali. I thought Saddam Ali was going to wipe the floor with Jessie Vargas. I really did. I didn't think Vargas had a chance in that fight. And the more, as you're watching that fight, the more you watch that fight, Vargas just manhandled that guy. I mean, that fight wasn't even close. It wasn't like, it wasn't even like it was competitive. It really wasn't. I mean, he just completely mopped up Saddam Ali, made him look like an amateur. And Saddam Ali was a guy that was looking very good on the way up. And when he ran into Vargas, he had some issues. And I tell you what, man, I've said it, Manny Pacquiao is slowing down. I don't think Vargas is the guy to expose him. But I tell you what, he's a live dog in there. Let's put it that way. He's a live dog to expose him. Beeb, what are your thoughts on Suleiman's question, and as far as him becoming a not necessarily a household name, but him how is he going to be perceived if he knocks out Manny Pacquiao? Does he go down in history as one of the greats?
Probably not, but I do agree with Suleiman. I do agree that Suleiman, said that about he should get the opportunities. I agree with that 110%. Yeah, absolutely. I think he should get the opportunities. Will he get them? I don't know, but at this stage, fighting, beating Manny Pacquiao, obviously it's definitely a monumental accomplishment. But I don't know, just one fight, I don't think defines a whole career. I think you'd have to, beat some other great fighters as well to really cement himself in history. So yeah, I don't think he would.
And I hate to beat that.
But it would be nice to see him. But it'd be nice to see him get those same opportunities that Manny Pacquiao would get, like maybe him get a Terrence Crawford fight, or maybe him get a Danny Garcia fight, or end up really getting that fight with Kell Brook like it was supposed to happen. So let's see what happens. Hopefully something opens up.
And I hate to be negative, Nancy, but I've always considered Jessie Vargas to be the weakest belt holder of this division, because I have not been impressed with his body of work. The best fight I've ever seen him fight was against Saddam Ali. But before that, Jessie Vargas has just pretty much skated by. He's gotten lucky decisions. I don't know if it's the fact that he's a hometown fighter from Las Vegas or not, but he's gotten some razor thin decisions in most of his fights, and I don't see Jessie Vargas being the one to expose Manny Pacquiao, as we said earlier. I think somebody else with more talent is going to have to do that. But if Jessie Vargas does win, I do think he deserves the same opportunities. But I really don't see Jessie Vargas being a major player in this sport, because other than the Saddam Ali fight, he's never done anything to impress me.
I think that, and he brought up a good point that how come does he get the same opportunities, Manny? If he beats Manny, he is going to get the same opportunities. Trust me, this is a big fight for him. And one could argue, getting the Manny fight is a big fight. Because it's like a lottery ticket. He's going to get paid a lot of money for it. So he's kind of hit the lotto now by getting that fight. He beats Pacquiao. If he beats Pacquiao, I think they put him against Terrence Crawford next. I think that's a no-brainer. Nobody wants to see him and Bradley fight, but I think they bring Terrence Crawford up, and I think he fights him next. He beats Crawford. And then you got a guy, man. But he beats Pacquiao, you got a guy. You got a money guy at that point too. So all good stuff to think about, man. All good stuff to think about. So that'll do it for this edition of Ringside Reporter. As always, you can catch Robert on Twitter at Ringside Robert, or you can call Ringside Robbie's Corner at 773-572-7781 and listen to all the podcasts and fights. You can catch Joe Habib on Twitter at jhabib1 and find his YouTube channel at www.beatingtheoddswithbeeb.com. I'm at Ringside 73, and we will see you next week.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.